Hey, good morning, nurses. I am so excited to introduce you to Sarah Jividen today. We're going to be talking about her bouncing back from burnout story. And Sarah, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell me, number one, what got you into nursing in the first place? And number two, how long have you been a nurse now?
So I've been a nurse, maybe 6.5 or 7 years.
Uh-huh.
I'm actually a second career nurse. I started after I graduated from college the first time. I actually went into medical sales and worked in hospital operating rooms from a business, kind of on the business side of healthcare, and did that for a while and actually got kind of burned out and done with that. And that's when I became a nurse. So yeah, so here I am.
Gotcha. And what made you decide to become a nurse? I mean, it's a second career. Like, that's a big commitment. Nursing school is no joke. So what made you decide to transition from that into nursing?
So it took me a lot of soul searching. I knew I did not want to be a salesperson anymore, but my resume said salesperson. And so I toyed with like a whole bunch of different ideas. Like I even thought at one point I was going to walk dogs for like a living. And I thought dogs are nice. I like them. So, but obviously that wasn't going to work out. So after some soul searching, I realized working in healthcare from the business perspective, I used to go into the emergency room a lot and work with the doctors and sell products. And I felt like a real drive to be more clinical. And I didn't feel like I had like the street credibility to be in there. Wow. And I wanted to know more. And like, there were actually procedures where I was like, I want to actually help. So finally one day, I didn't want to do operating room though. But then after talking to other nurses, they were like, oh no, there's so many options. Like you can do labor and delivery, you can do emergency room, you can do ICU, you can home health. There's so many things. And once I realized that, I was like, this is cool. And I wanted to help, genuinely did want to help people, because there's something about being in business and going in and asking people for money all the time. I came home not feeling like, I didn't do good things today. I mean, I'm doing my job, but I just felt like more I could do. Yeah.
Gotcha. Fascinating. I think that that's a draw for a lot of people as far as nursing, because they sort of have this idea that they can make an impact on people's lives. And really, like, that plays into that bigger purpose, that fulfillment, that bigger potential that we all feel, that pull to kind of like, how do we contribute to this planet and make it a better place, in the presence of our existence? Like, how do we do that? So, interesting story. Thank you for sharing. And I know that I was reading some of your blogs. You do this fabulous blog thing, which we're going to be talking more about your blogging in our next interview when we talk about how you nurture nurses through this blog. But the one thing that caught my attention was that you posted a blog on 7 ways to 7 ways to beat nurse burnout and to find your passion again. And the very first thing that you said on that was, I experienced nurse burnout after 2 years of being a nurse. So can you share that story?
Yeah. That is like right at the root of like why I started blogging, actually, because here I went back to school. Nursing school is not cheap. I'm in California. I put 3 years of my life, I put everything on hold. I dedicated myself to this. I got good grades. I became a nurse. I did all the right things. I'm doing what my passion, what I want to be doing. And, for a while I was kind of coasting on just pure adrenaline, because you're learning every day.
Yes.
But then after, it wasn't even maybe 2 years. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I am burned out. I'm so tired. I'm working with nurses that have been doing this for so long that they literally are limping. And I'm thinking, is this, this cannot be sustainable.
Right.
This sort of, what nurses get. Like nurses give, like their whole career is revolved around helping everyone else and not themselves. And also, not only that, I actually became a mom too. So, the two together, you're kind of like last on the list. You're like number 50 out of, different things to take care of, so.
This is so true. So this is one thing that I talk to my clients about is, if you look at your to-do list, like you sit down, you write out your to-do list every morning of like all these things I have to do, and your own self-care, those things that you need to do to take care of yourself just to be healthy, is number one, probably never even on that list. And if you do write it on the list, it's probably at the bottom. And guess what part of that list you never get to? The bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Never. There's too much to do.
Exactly. Yeah. So tell us what you were sort of feeling. Like you said, I was burned out, but like, how did you know? What were you feeling, and how did that affect you, not only as a nurse, but as a, you know, an individual in your family, in your personal life?
Yeah. I was frustrated and angry a lot of the time. Like I would, you work all day, you come home, I'd try to get a good night's sleep, but I'd still wake up and I'd be exhausted. And I've practiced yoga for a really long time, but I started not doing that. I started like not taking care of myself as much, or being like, oh, I'm just going to stay in and rest. Or, instead of like cooking a nice dinner, I would, do something else. Nurses kind of get in the habit. They're like, well, I want to do something fast because I'm so tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just had an overwhelming feeling of like just being mad, which is not a good way to live.
No.
So that was kind of like, I needed an outlet. I needed to like create some outlets, or like find it, figure out a way to handle that. Cause, if you need to be in a good mindset if you're going to be caring for people, because they feel it. They know, like if you start cutting corners and not doing, it can become unsafe. You need to be on top of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So,
it's interesting.
And my back, I started having chronic back pain too, which when I first started, I worked on a neuroscience and stroke floor. A lot of people weren't able to walk very well. So we were constantly lifting people, and a lot of back injuries. I mean, it's a big occupational health issue with nurses. They have back injuries. So
yeah,
that was happening.
Definitely. So I find it interesting in these interviews that I've been doing about bouncing back from burnout, that is a really common thing, is like, I was feeling frustrated, I was feeling angry, I was feeling mad, I'd stopped caring for myself, and I started having like sometimes phantom body pains. Like, it's really interesting how our bodies are amazing messengers at telling us what's going on, even though we're not willing to admit it. And one of the interviews I did, I think we left it with the question of, what is your body trying to tell you that you've been not willing to listen to? And really, it's just getting back to who you are at your core, and how do you take care of yourself and become the most healthy version, so that you can really show up from a powerful place. Because I truly believe that when nurses show up as whole and healthy, like, that feeling just flows through them. And we have so much power with the lives that we touch to make a difference when we are able to show up that way, which is really cool on the bigger scheme of things.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. So talk to us about when you realized you were burned out. What did you start doing? How did you kind of bounce back from that?
Something I started looking into was just other options. I know when I first went into this neuroscience and stroke floor, I got certified. I was really kind of into that, but I think I realized that I needed to kind of step out and look at some other options. I know a lot of nurses stay in one career, one specialty, they've experienced this burnout, but they don't really look for other options. And so one of the things I did after I had my daughter was go into resource nursing, because it offered me more flexibility. So I wasn't getting stuck with these like 3, back to back shifts, or I could pick my days a little bit better, which helps a lot when you have kids.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that it gave me an opportunity to work in a lot of different specialties. So I got to work on, I was, instead of neuroscience and stroke, I got to work with like liver patients and, on the cardiac floor. And I was the float nurse, so I was always kind of a little bit new and never really 100% comfortable, but it was good learning experience. It kind of takes you out of your, day-to-day ruts, and, helps you, just the newness of something, and being introduced to something a little bit new can help with that burnout. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So you also talk about how you have a blog that talks about how switching specialties really sort of refreshed you as a nurse. And I think that that's something that's really important is, it's not always the job that's burning you out, because like you said, you had stopped taking care of yourself. And I can imagine that that played a big role in your feelings of being burned out. But there's also that factor of being in a nursing role that maybe has had an expiration date. I mean, that's the great thing about nursing, is that there's so many things that you can do. And I really truly believe that if you focus on taking care of yourself to keep yourself healthy, and if you keep your options open and don't allow yourself to be like, well, this is it, this is comfortable, it pays my bills, and really think outside of that to like what you can actually do and create within a nursing career is pretty incredible. And so, really, like you said, just switching that up and making sure that you had a nursing job that was flexible so that you had that flexibility at home with your family. I mean, I'm sure that decreased your personal stress level quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once kids are introduced to, it just becomes, you need to create an environment that is, works with your home life too. It's not all about you anymore. So
absolutely.
It like you said, it's so true. Like so many people, I feel like there's a lot of nurses that stay in the same role because that's their role and they're experts at it, and they don't really step out of it. You don't realize that, nurses, like, working on a lot of different floors, a lot of people do things differently. But if you're only in the same place, you don't really know that until you kind of get out and see, and you're like, well, there's other ways of doing this. And, it just kind of, broadens your horizons a little bit. And yes, so when I started working in the emergency department, you'd mentioned that, and that really, really helped with because there was a little bit of a time period where I actually considered possibly leaving the nursing profession, because I was like, there's just nothing else out there. I didn't, you just gotta, if something's not working, maybe try something else, I guess is the moral to that story. Because working in the emergency department, it's very different from a lot of the floors. And, learning how to, work in traumas and, just the ER patients that are coming in, it's very, very different. And that definitely helped a lot. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. So I just want to reiterate that there are so many things that you can do as an RN. And you worked really, really, really hard to be a nurse. Like, nursing school is no joke. Yeah. And honestly, like, I think that's where we all start learning really bad self-care habits, because, some of us are trying to work full time and manage nursing school, which nursing school in itself is a full-time job. And then you add all of those other hats that you wear, like, boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, parent, sibling, child, all of those things that you try to manage. And, it just kind of sets you up to put yourself last. So I think that nursing schools have some opportunity there to help train nurses to really be their healthiest self, so that they can be the safest and the most effective in their practice. And then, I just want to say, like, you worked so, so hard to become a nurse. Like, don't give up on this profession when there are so many options. And that's part of what I love about doing this interview, is because not only does it help show people or fellow nurses what they can do to help, sort of bring that back to take care of themselves and make sure that they're healthy, but it also makes them realize, like, oh, there are other things, and I can be successful at those other things, and those other things can pay my bills and provide me less stress and more balance. So I just want to tell you, if you're one of those nurses considering, like, getting out of nursing altogether, don't give up just yet. Like, reach out to me, reach out to any of these wonderful nurses that I've been interviewing, and pick our brains. Let us support you in figuring out what's next, because you're not in this alone. And so, Sarah, I wanted to move on to your blog and really leave our fellow nurses with your sort of 7 ways to beat the burnout. And so I'm going to go through each of these and just kind of read the title, and then I'll let you expand on it a little bit and maybe share, like, how these really sort of helped you get through and maybe how they're helping you prevent being burned out moving forward in your career. So the first one is to find a work-life balance.
Yes. So what I did to find a work-life balance was to become a per diem nurse at first. But I know a lot of nurses that are trying to like be everything and anything to, you know, whatever unit they're working on, like alternating days and nights. I mean, there's only so long that you can, you know, push yourself like that before you're going to feel a lot of burnout. So, you know, everybody needs a break, even nurses. So if you really got to do a little bit of soul searching and kind of take a look at the opportunities out there. To help like balance your day and, you know, your work and home life.
Yeah. So that's another common theme that comes up in these interviews that I do is like, do that soul searching. Give yourself permission to take that break to really like dig into yourself. Like, what is it that you want? What do you want? What do you want moving forward? What do you want to create? Because without starting there, it's really hard to know how to move forward. So like, I love that you make that point, like really take that time to do that soul searching. The second point that you make is to make your health a number one priority.
You know, I think you nailed it on the head earlier when you said that when nurses take really great care of themselves, they can take really great care of other people. And that's just really the only way it's going to work out. So by making your health a priority, you're actually being really good at your job too. So I know a lot of nurses, obviously our schedules are pretty demanding, but it is important to care for your patients or care for yourself like you would care for your patients. We teach our patients to exercise, you know, we tell them how to keep their blood pressure low. We teach them how to prevent diabetes. Nurses are not doing that. A lot of them, and you know, myself included, people are guilty because you're just so busy taking care of everybody else that you're like the last one on the list. In the break rooms, you go in the break rooms and it's like cookies galore. You know, this is the place we go to find solace and, you know, quiet and to you know, get away from our patients for a minute and to focus on ourselves. And it's like, you're so hungry. And you know, if there's cookies there, you're just gonna go for it. So it's, you know, I think as an industry, I feel like nurses could do a better job at like helping take care of each other in that way.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And you're so right. Like there's cookies and candy galore, which it's really a numbing technique because like in the moment when you are so stressed out and so overwhelmed, like just having that little bite of sweetness, like really like just takes you down just for a minute.
Totally. It's like an addiction. You're like, oh, I got a little bit. Okay, I feel better.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And it's more of a numbing technique because I mean, it just temporarily numbs like the distress, but it doesn't actually create a solution other than making your thighs bigger, I guess. Yeah. And I love that when you take care of yourselves, you're actually doing a service to your profession because you really show up as the model of what you want for your patients. Because like, I know that in times in my life when I've been overweight and not taking care of myself and not my healthiest and not doing the things that I need to be doing, and then I start teaching those to my patient, I feel sort of like an imposter syndrome or like a hypocrite because I'm like basically preaching to you, but I'm not posturing what it is that like I'm telling you to do. And that is,
I know, guilty. Totally, totally
I know. I'm totally guilty. And you do feel that disconnect in that, like, I'm here to be a nurse and to inspire you to do better, but I can't even inspire myself to do better. So I'm really not doing my best all the way around.
Yeah.
The number 3, you said, find your why in your burnout. And I love this point because the why is not always the job. And I sort of experienced that when I was going through some burnout is I thought for sure, like, I've been in ER for 8.5 years. I'm proficient in all of the roles. I train all of the people. I've, you know, like revamped site care and I've taken care of the new grads and create a mentorship program. I'm like, no wonder I'm burned out. It's totally the job. And so I took a different position and switched things up, and I was still feeling symptoms of burnout. And I was like, oh, Well, I ended up taking me with me into that new role, and I was not doing my best to take care of myself.
That's interesting. That's so true.
You know, just taking that, like pointing that finger at something outside of me was not the whole and complete answer. And so tell me more about why you say find the why in your burnout.
Well, just like what you just totally hit it right there, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, I just need, you know, sometimes it's not the job. Sometimes if you really sit down and you really think to yourself, like, gosh, maybe I need something else. Maybe, you know, maybe I really just need to be doing a little bit more self-care. I feel like for a lot of people, that's what it is. Cause if you are enjoying your job, but you're just burned out, you know, maybe you need a vacation. Maybe you need to pick up meditation. Maybe, you know, taking your lunch break, if you get one. I know a lot of nurses don't even get that anymore, but taking, you know, 20 minutes and going and just sitting downstairs. We have a meditation room at UCLA at our hospital. And it's great because you can go down and sit in there and like shut your eyes, and it's, you know, patients also, I mean, not patients, but it's open to families and staff too. And, you know, it's just to disconnect and just shut your eyes and maybe put on some headphones and just zone out. So finding the why is important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because once you find that why, it really kind of creates that path to the solutions as to how to fix it. And there are most certainly days where I'm like, oh man, I miss ER. I miss traumas. I miss strokes. I miss heart attacks. I miss, you know, the crazy chaos. And I definitely miss my coworkers. I mean, you know, when you work on a unit with somebody, like they are your family, they're your people, they're your, you know, your family away from your family. They're really those people that you work elbow to elbow with every day. And I will not lie, I definitely miss my family. But, you know, I needed that space to figure out that why, like what was causing this, and really how can we prevent it in the future? Because that's part of this journey is what do you learn from it, and how do you take those lessons with you, not only to help create a better outcome for yourself, but to share with other nurses and to support them through that. Number 4 is challenge yourself. I love this one.
So this one is so important because a lot of times they could just get stagnant. They're like, oh, I go to my 12-hour shift. You get to go home and leave your work at work. But you have to challenge yourself. Like a lot of one of the reasons that people get burnout is that they're just bored. You know, they've been doing the same thing. They are so good at what they do that they're literally just bored. So for me, obviously changing specialties was a big one because it opens to a whole bunch of, you know, learning a whole different patient population, but also just getting certified in your specialty, like, you know, taking steps to, you know, give yourself a little bit more street cred, and being more of you know, a good example to maybe other nurses. That really helps because you're going to enjoy the more you know, the more you're going to enjoy your job, but then you also become kind of a resource to other people. Like you said, you started training people. Training people is actually a lot of fun. If you, once you get good, I started precepting on my neuroscience and stroke floor. And one of the things that did help my burnout then was I started precepting a nursing student who, we ended up becoming great friends, but it was a lot of fun, you know, because you build that camaraderie and you're working together and, you know, you're teaching and you're learning more yourself. So, you know, taking on new roles is helpful.
Absolutely.
Or for some people, maybe even go back and get your master's degree. I know that helped a lot of people, you know, figure out, you know, do you want to be an NP maybe, or, you know, maybe you want to get into infection control or do something completely different. So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there really are so many options, and I personally enjoyed precepting as well. And the thing that I loved so much about it is like feeling that excitement and that nervousness of like that brand new employee or that student. And I'm like, oh man, I remember how that felt to be like so nervous to just like put on a blood pressure cuff and like ask permission to listen to heart sounds. You know?
Totally, yeah.
It just reminds me, like reconnects me with that like inner newbie nurse. And there's something really, really exciting about that time in the profession. So like, I agree with you. Like taking on that role of a preceptor can be so fun and so fulfilling. It's just such a great time.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you see them flourish and you're like, oh, they're doing
so good. Well, baby nurse is doing so good. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. The next one is surround yourself with positive support. And I love that you bring this one up because, you know, they do say that you're kind of the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. And really like taking a look at that circle of influence is so important. So tell me about how this one came up for you and just why it ended up on your list.
I mean, it always helps to surround yourself with positive people, obviously, and sometimes not necessarily people that you work with. Sometimes like having, you know, talking to a career coach. That's actually, a really helpful one. Somebody that can sit down and maybe help brainstorm, you know, that it's going to help support you to find something else that might be a better fit. So I know there's a lot of career coaches out there. One of the things, one of the big reasons I think a lot of people get experience nursing burnout is because bullying is still a thing in the nursing community. So a lot of times, you know, you need to get out and talk to somebody about that because that's not fair. Sometimes it's very hidden bullying. You know, you're just experiencing this negativity from people around you, and that's not where you need to be spending your time. If that's happening, you got to reach out and find somebody to talk to. You know, look for people who support you. Stay away from the people who do not support you because you're not going to succeed. Yeah.
Amen.
Just get them away.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Number 6, you said find an outlet.
Yes, everybody needs an outlet. Like I mentioned earlier, I practiced yoga for a long time, and I did find myself getting away with it, or, you know, getting away from it. And I totally felt a huge difference in that. There's something that yoga does for me that no other form of exercise does. So even if I go for a run or, you know, for a walk or something, there's something about yoga that just like centers me and helps me more than anything else. So for me, that's my outlet. But for somebody else, it might be like they love art. They need to get out and, you know, use their brain differently. Or my husband loves to golf. So that's kind of his outlet to get out and be, you know, on the golf course or whatever it is, just to flip you out of caretaker mode into something that you can do to focus on yourself a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you bring up the point that it really just like centers you and gives you that time to just really like get out of your head, get out of the space and just like enjoy being. And really, I mean, that's kind of the point of life, is to just really enjoy the presence and enjoy everything around you that you have created. And so, you know, finding those things that really help connect you and just make you feel like, you know, you're connected and you're relaxed and you're enjoying the present moment is so, so important. Absolutely. And number 7, you said, consider new options. And I think that we kind of covered this one, and just, you know, encouraging nurses to, you know, not only refocus on taking care of yourself, but really knowing that there are other options out there. And sometimes a combination of both is the answer. And I mean, I really think before, you know, making some massive like career change, like I think a really good starting place is to take a look in the mirror and take a look at those healthcare practices that you're either are or aren't doing. And really, when I think about self-care and you think about all those things that you need to do to take care of yourself, like, you know, nourish your body with healthy foods, get enough sleep, go move your body, get at least 30 minutes of physical activity, drink enough water. Like these things are not rocket science. They are not.
No.
They're very, very simple. And the thing about self-care is it's really easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. And the question is, what outcome do you really want? Because it's all those small things that you either do or don't do that's going to create a massive impact if you, you know, fast forward that 1, 3, 5 years from now. And really that's what creates our future, is those small things that we do on a consistent basis. And so, if you want to change how you're feeling and how you're showing up, you just have to change a few small things on a consistent basis to really make that difference.
Yeah. And consistency is like so important. It's not rocket science. It's literally like the easier, the answer is like the easiest possible, answer. It's like the basic stuff that you teach people to do, that we teach our patients to do, that we're not necessarily maybe doing. So,
right.
Totally.
I listened to a podcast recently that was like, you need to get 30 minutes of physical exercise for your body every single day to be healthy. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go to the CrossFit gym and kill yourself for that 30 minutes if that's not your thing. What I am saying is get 30 minutes a day. And in a 24-hour day, if you cannot find 30 minutes to give your body some attention, then you should probably be questioning what kind of life it is that you're living, because in my opinion, that's no life at all. And I heard him and I was like,
totally.
30 minutes in 24 hours.
I know. That's really not that much time. That's not that much time. Like, you could walk around the block with your kids or something. Or some, and you feel better. I mean, just move, just that whole idea of moving, you're getting blood to your brain and to your body, and you have more energy. It sort of snowballs into helping you help yourself in other ways.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I listened to that podcast. I was like, oh my God, such an amazing point, and like so simple. So, I mean, really, I think that's probably a good place to leave our fellow nurses, is just do those simple things. Do them for yourself every day on a consistent basis. Like, you have time. You do. You have time. You can do it.
You have time because you're going to pay for it now, or you're going to, pay for it later. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have money to, exercise right now. Well, you pay for it, put the time in now, because you're going to be paying for it later when you're one of our patients, basically coming into the ER with a stroke or a heart attack or, uncontrolled diabetes or something. You need to work at it now so that you don't come back later as a patient.
Right. Put in that 30 minutes now, and like, not only create a different outcome or a different future for yourself, but also, like, in doing those things consistently on a small basis, you actually change your family tree, because those below you watch. They don't do what you say, they do what you do. And so by doing those things, you have so much power to create a different future for yourself and for your family tree, which is, it's like I said, that the impact of those small things done consistently are massive. So don't underestimate them. And, again, you have time. You have 30 minutes in a 24-hour day to take care of yourself.
Yeah. I agree.
I just love this blog, and I've so enjoyed getting to know you a little bit, and I really appreciate you sharing your story. I know that it's going to inspire so many other nurses, and I really look forward to interviewing you next time. We're going to be bringing her back to talk about nurses nurturing nurses and how she's doing that through her blog. So, Sarah, thank you again, and have a wonderful day. Go out and take care of you.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Yeah, you bet.